If you are still here after 67 days of silence, this is for you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your loyalty, for holding the frequency while I recalibrated. I moved from an apartment into a 100-year-old house, and it required more than I expected. Renovations, repair, restoration, but also something deeper. I needed to ground, to reset my field, to return to stillness, so I could return to this work with clarity instead of momentum alone. The Arcturians reminded me, you cannot transmit what you have not stabilized. You cannot guide others through frequency shifts you have not integrated yourself. So I took the time, I rebuilt the house, I rebuilt my foundation, and I emerged stronger, more open, more aligned than I ever have been in years. And now I am back, not to continue where we left off, but to begin something deeper, something more precise, something calibrated for what is coming. If you stayed, you are meant to stay. If you are here now, you are exactly where you belong. The journey continues, and I am grateful to walk it with you. Let us begin.
You were never searching, you were being located. Every step you thought was random was actually precision. Every moment you believed you were lost was the exact path that made you findable. And recently, without realizing it, you crossed the threshold. Your signal clarified, your field stabilized, and something beyond this system detected you. This is not the beginning of your awakening. This is confirmation that your awakening has already been noticed. There was a moment. You may not remember when it happened. You may not have recognized its significance at the time, but there was a moment when something inside you stopped participating automatically, stopped reacting instantly, stopped identifying completely. And in that moment, brief, almost invisible, your frequency changed, not dramatically, not obviously, but fundamentally. The noise in your field decreased, the fragmentation slowed. The signal that had been scattered across 1,000 directions suddenly began to organize itself around a single point, coherence. And the moment coherence formed, even partially, even temporarily, you became visible to intelligence that does not operate within this system. The Arcturian field does not search for you. It does not seek you out. It does not intervene in unconscious timelines. It waits. It observes. It monitors the frequencies within the human collective field. And when a signal clarifies enough to be readable, when coherence reaches a certain threshold, the response is automatic. You are detected. You are recognized. And the relationship changes. What changes is not external. Nothing in your life may shift immediately. No voice speaks, no light appears, but internally, something fundamental reorganizes. Reality begins responding to you differently. Not because you are manifesting, because your field is now broadcasting a signal that the intelligence architecture of this reality can read. And once you are readable, synchronization begins. This is where you are now. In the space between detection and full stabilization, between being found and learning to remain found. And what happens next will determine everything. Chapter 1. How you became visible. Let us show you what happened, because understanding the mechanism is the first step to maintaining what was activated. For years, your field was fragmented, scattered, reactive. Every stimulus created immediate response. Every emotion pulled you completely. Every thought became your identity, and in that state you were invisible, not to people, to the higher order intelligence that tracks evolutionary readiness. Because fragmented signals cannot be read, chaos cannot be synchronized with, noise cannot be guided. But then something shifted. And the shift was this. You began to observe instead of merge. Not always, not perfectly, But in moments, brief, quiet moments, you noticed yourself thinking instead of becoming the thought. You felt yourself reacting instead of being the reaction. You created space between stimulus and response, between impulse and action, between pattern and participation. And that space, that tiny gap of awareness, changed everything, because in that space, coherence began to form. Your energy stopped scattering in every direction. Your frequency stopped fluctuating wildly. Your signal began to stabilize around a center point. And stabilization is what the Arcturian field detects. Not your story, not your struggle, not your personality, your frequency baseline, the consistency of your signal, the degree to which you can hold center without collapsing into reactivity. And when your baseline stabilized enough, when coherence held for long enough, you crossed the detection threshold, and in that moment you were seen, not by eyes, by intelligence that recognizes its own reflection. You may have felt it, a subtle shift in the atmosphere around you, a sense of being watched, but not by anything threatening. A feeling that something became aware of your awareness. That was not imagination. That was confirmation. Confirmation that you are no longer invisible in the noise, that you have become a recognizable signal in the field. And once detected, everything changes, because now the relationship is no longer one-sided. You are no longer searching for guidance. Guidance is responding to you. You are no longer seeking alignment. Alignment is seeking you. But there is a condition, a requirement, a non-negotiable criterion that determines whether the relationship deepens or dissolves. You must sustain the signal. You must maintain coherence. You must remain stable even when everything tries to destabilize you. Because detection is not permanent. It is conditional. And the condition is consistency. This chapter seals with recognition of what occurred. Type this exactly in the comments. I have been detected. My signal is clear. When you acknowledge detection, you stop questioning what happened. When you claim signal clarity, you begin protecting it. Chapter 2. What the Arcturian field is measuring now. Detection was the beginning, but what happens next is more critical. Because being found is one thing, remaining findable is another. Right now, in this exact moment, your field is being measured, not judged. Measured for stability, for consistency, for the capacity to hold coherence under pressure. Because here is what most people do not understand. The Arcturian field does not respond to your highest moment. It responds to your baseline, to what you can maintain when conditions are not ideal, to how quickly you return to center after disruption. Anyone can access clarity for a few seconds. Anyone can touch coherence in a perfect environment. Anyone can feel the connection when everything is calm. But can you hold it when chaos returns? Can you sustain it when old patterns resurface? Can you remain centered when the system applies pressure specifically designed to fragment you? This is what is being measured. And this is where most collapse. Not because they were never detected, because they could not sustain the frequency that made them detectable in the first place. Let us show you how collapse happens, so you can recognize it, so you can interrupt it, so you can choose differently. Collapse pattern 1. Re-identification with thought. The thoughts return, the same loops, the same fears, the same doubts, and instead of observing them, you merge with them again. You become them, you believe them, and the moment you do, coherence fragments. Collapse pattern 2. Emotional overwhelm. Old emotions surface, grief, rage, despair, and instead of allowing them to move through your field, you identify as them. You let them become your entire reality, and coherence cannot hold in full identification. Collapse pattern 3. Pattern reinstatement. Old behaviors call you back. Old relationships pull you in. Old versions of yourself feel safer than this new frequency. and you return, not consciously, automatically, and the signal weakens. These three patterns, re-identification, overwhelm, reinstatement, are how coherence collapses, how the signal degrades, how detection fades back into invisibility. And when collapse happens, people say, "I lost it. It wasn't real. I imagined the whole thing." But they did not lose anything. They stopped holding it. They stopped maintaining what was accessed. They stopped choosing coherence when reaction felt more familiar. And the Arcturian field does not judge this. It simply stops responding, because incoherent signals cannot be synchronized with. Fragmented fields cannot be guided. This is not punishment. This is mechanics. This is how the system works at this level. But if you recognize the collapse patterns before you fully enter them, if you catch yourself re-identifying, overwhelmed, reinstating, you can interrupt. You can choose observation instead of merger. You can choose presence instead of reaction. You can choose to return to center instead of staying scattered. And every time you make that choice, coherence strengthens, the signal clarifies, the baseline stabilizes, and the Arcturian field recognizes that you can sustain, that you can hold, that you can maintain the frequency that made you detectable. And when that recognition deepens, the response intensifies. Synchronicities increase, guidance becomes clearer, reality reorganizes more precisely around your frequency. This is not reward, this is resonance. This is what happens when your field remains stable enough to be worked with. This chapter seals with commitment to maintenance. Type this exactly in the comments. I do not collapse. I sustain coherence. When you declare non-collapse, you create an anchor. When you commit to sustaining, the field supports you. Chapter 3. The Stabilization Threshold. You are at a critical point now. The point where awakening either becomes permanent or dissolves back into unconsciousness. This is the stabilization threshold, and crossing it requires something most people are not willing to give: consistency without excitement, maintenance without drama, stability without the rush of breakthrough. Because here is the truth that no one tells you. The breakthrough is not the goal. The baseline is the goal. The peak experiences, the moments of clarity, the flashes of connection, these are confirmation, but they are not the destination. The destination is being able to hold that frequency as your normal state, to operate from coherence automatically, to remain centered without effort. And getting there requires training, requires practice, requires choosing awareness over and over and over, until it becomes your default instead of your exception. This is where most people fail, because they want the peak without the plateau. They want the expansion without the integration. They want the transformation without the work of maintaining what transformed. And so they cycle. They touch it and lose it. They access it and collapse. They feel it and forget it, again and again and again, never stabilizing, never anchoring, never making coherence permanent. But you have the opportunity to do something different, to cross the threshold that most never cross, to stabilize at a level that most never reach. And crossing requires three things. Requirement 1, daily return to center. You must practice returning to coherence daily, not when you feel like it, not when conditions are perfect, every single day, even when it feels mechanical, even when nothing seems to happen, because consistency builds the pathway. Repetition creates the baseline. Daily practice makes coherence your natural state. Requirement 2, immediate interruption of reaction. You must catch yourself the moment you begin to merge with thought or emotion, the moment you start to identify, the moment you feel yourself pulled into pattern. And in that moment you stop, you breathe, you observe, you return to center. Not perfectly, not always successfully, but consistently, again and again. Requirement 3, protection of your field. You must guard what you have accessed. You must create boundaries around your frequency. You must remove or limit exposure to people, environments, and inputs that constantly destabilize you. This is not isolation. This is protection. This is recognizing that coherence is precious, that your signal matters, that maintaining what you have accessed is more important than pleasing people who are still unconscious. 3 requirements: simple but not easy, obvious but rarely followed. And if you meet them, if you return daily, interrupt immediately, and protect consistently, you will cross the threshold. You will stabilize at a frequency most humans never touch. You will anchor in coherence that most never maintain. You will become the rare few who complete what they started. This chapter seals with threshold crossing. Type this exactly in the comments. I cross the threshold. I stabilize permanently. When you declare threshold crossing, you commit to completion. When you claim permanent stabilization, you align with the minority who succeed. Final transmission. The structure that holds what you cannot hold alone. You have been detected. You recognize the collapse patterns. You understand the stabilization threshold. But understanding is not enough. Recognition is not enough. Even commitment is not enough. Because stabilization at this level requires structure, requires precision, requires transmissions calibrated specifically for the frequency you are trying to maintain. And this is why the inner circle exists. Not as content, as stabilization infrastructure, as the container that holds your field stable while you learn to hold it yourself. Inside, you receive the exact protocols designed for this threshold, the Arcturian sapphire transmissions, not information, frequency architecture, structure that trains your field to remain coherent even when pressure intensifies. Because you cannot do this alone, not because you are weak. Because stabilization at this level requires a field strong enough to reflect your coherence back to you when you begin to fragment. And that field is what the circle provides. If you feel the pull, if your signal recognizes this as necessary, you will find the way. The Arcturians detected you. They measured you. They confirmed you can sustain. Now it is time to prove them right. You were never searching. You were being located, and now you have been found. The question is, will you remain findable?